Carol Beecham with the George Memorial Library Genealogy Department. Welcome to the Finding Your Female Ancestors class. Females can be much more challenging than men because, unfortunately, it is customary for females to change our last name when we get married. Plus, it was a man's world prior to the 20th century. Women didn't often own property and left behind fewer historical records than men. In order to research further back in a female ancestors line, you need to discover her maiden name and her parents' names. Vital records are a good source for maiden names, but they typically weren't kept until the early 20th century. Some of the older states and larger cities started keeping vital records much earlier, but this is not typically the case. Texas didn't start until 1903. You can obtain copies of birth and death certificates from either the county or state level. Use the website vitalrec.com if you are ordering from the state to download the proper forms to request your copies. Just keep in mind that states have different privacy laws in place regarding their vital records. For example, a person has to be deceased for at least 25 years in the state of Texas before you can order a copy of their death certificate unless you are next of kin. These laws will vary from state to state. Some states are more strict than others. FamilySearch.org is a free database that you can use from your home. They have a variety of different records available for each state. Check to see if they have any vital records available in the state you are researching in. They have both birth and death information available for Texas. Ancestry.com is a subscription-based database that is available through the library for free, but it cannot be accessed from home. You must be inside the library to use it. You could also pay for your own subscription to use wherever you like. Ancestry has a lot of vital records online as well, especially for Texas. DeathIndexes.com is a useful website that lets you know what information concerning deaths is available online for every state. Just click on the state you are doing research in to get the list. Information found on a birth record should be very accurate because the mother most likely gave the information herself. Death records can be subject to error depending on the knowledge of the informant at the time of death. Seek death records for each of the woman's children as well. Even if the death certificate for your ancestor doesn't include the mother's name, others might. Marriage records include marriage license, certificates, announcements, bans, and marriage bonds. Marriage licenses are the least common form of marriage record to be found today because they were usually given to the couple being married and have been lost over time. However, the paperwork generated by the application for a marriage license may have been preserved in church or public records, which will provide clues to your ancestor's identity. You will need to know the spouse's name, marriage location, and approximate marriage date to find these records. Marriage records are usually found at the county and town clerk's offices, but sometimes in churches as well. Find out which office holds the marriage records in the locality where the couple was living at the time of their marriage. If they were living in different localities, look in the bride's county or town of residence. Use census records to help you know what county the couple was living in. Witnesses to a marriage are often related to the bride and groom. The name of the person who performed the marriage ceremony may help to identify a church, which could lead to a record of the marriage and/or possibly other records for the family. The surety, or person who put up the money to guarantee that the marriage will take place, on many marriage bonds was often a relative of the bride, usually a father or brother. Also, don't forget to check for divorce records. Look in the court that handles divorce decrees in the area in question. The Texas State Library has microfilmed many of the county court records in Texas, including marriage records. These are available from various depositories through interlibrary loan. Ancestry and Family Search both have marriage records available too. Social Security applications are a great way to get the maiden name of some of the grandmothers in your family. As you can see from the example, questions number 4 and 5 ask for the names of the parents. This information is likely to be very accurate because Katie filled out this document herself. It is in her own handwriting and even has her signature at the bottom. You can obtain these documents under the Freedom of Information Act through the Social Security's website. To make things easier for you, I've included the web address to access the form you need. The cost is $27 and $29 if you don't know their Social Security number. If you don't want to spend the money to get an original copy of your ancestors' application, you can try looking in the U.S. Social Security Applications and Claims Index, available on Ancestry.com. This database gives information such as birth date and parents' names that were extracted from information filed with the Social Security Administration through the application or claims process. However, Ancestry will not publish the parents' names unless the deceased would be at least 75 years old today. The Social Security Death Index is another useful database. This database will give you their birth and death date, last residence, and Social Security number, but it will not give you the names of the parents. I would use the two databases to get the information you need to obtain the original copy from the Social Security Administration if that is what you wanted to do. The Find a Grave website is a free commercial website that allows you to search for the location of your ancestors' grave sites. By becoming a member, you can add grave sites or cemeteries. It allows you to add biographical information, and you can even leave virtual flowers and a note. Millions of Americans are entered. You can search by name or cemetery. Find a Grave will often have links to names of parents, spouses, and children under an entry as in the example above for Katie Edmondson. Billion Graves is another website similar to Find a Grave. Cemeteries can give clues about possible maiden names and family relationships by paying attention to the family names buried in adjoining plots. Sometimes the maiden name may even be on the tombstone. The cemetery may be the only place where you will find proof of the existence of a female ancestor. This is especially true if she died young and had little time to leave any official records behind. Newspapers are a great resource because they often reported on women's activities, especially in social and church news columns. Women were also named in legal notices. Check the newspaper for the locality where your ancestors live for birth and marriage announcements or obituaries. I have found a lot of great stuff on my own family by doing this. Obituary notices often contain biographical information on parentage, surviving heirs, place of birth or county of origin, and year of immigration. Maiden names are frequently included in obituaries. Also check obituaries for siblings or other family members. She may be mentioned in a brother's obituary. The Fort Bend County Library's website has a digital database where you can search for obits or death notices of everyone buried in Fort Bend County. We also have old area newspapers available on microfilm or can order ones from other libraries through interlibrary loan. You might consider subscribing to a newspaper database to get greater access, or use the one available on our website, which is Newsbank. Chronicling America is a free one that you can use through the Library of Congress. Your ancestors' world was a lot smaller than your world is today. They sure didn't have cell phones and online dating to help them find the love of their lives. They often married someone from the family next door. Pay attention to your ancestors' neighbors. More often than not, families lived in close proximity to each other, as in the example on the screen. Check to see if females in the neighborhood whose first name, age, place of birth, and other details match. Then do a little digging. Also, other people living in the same household could be in-laws, cousins, or siblings whose last name is the maiden name you are seeking. Do a little research to see if you can discover who residents are and if they are actually relatives. Some census years, such as 1880 and 1900 through 1940, actually have the relationship to the head of the household listed right on the census record. Also, check every single census year. Oftentimes, the mother or mother-in-law will move in with one of her children in their later years. And check the census records of all of her children, not just the one in your genealogy line. Sometimes a newly wedded couple would live in the same household as the bride or groom's parents for a time. In the 17th, 18th, and early 19th centuries, women's main contact with the military, besides as wives of soldiers, was when they sought pensions based on the service of male relatives or for their work as cooks, laundresses, and the like. We have pension indexes in book form for every war in our department, or use ones online from various databases. Here is an example of what you can find in a pension record. The example is for William Wyatt for his service in the Mexican-American War. The applicant was asked about when and where his marriage took place, the date, and his wife's maiden name. It asks if there is an existing marriage record or if there were any previous marriages. William also listed all of his children along with their birth dates and the married names of his daughters. He even noted that one of his daughters is dead. I can also see his signature in the right bottom corner. This one page of the pension application is an absolute gold mine. Pension records are definitely worth the money. Wills provide a source of information, but they are better used to confirm suspected parents because they provide names of married daughters. Have specific parents in mind before searching for a will. Figure out exactly where the person died before you begin your search. You don't want to waste time looking for a will in the wrong area if you incorrectly assume the parents lived in the same area as their children at the time of their death. Ancestry.com contains the largest online collection of documented wills and probate records for the U.S. They have records for all 50 states from 1668 to 2005. This is an example of a guardianship record. They're often overlooked in the court records. Guardianship is not always about custody. A child didn't need to be orphaned to need a guardian. They just had to have a legal interest that needed protecting. In this example, Margaret White was appointed guardian, and one of the sureties is actually her father. Always look for male relatives being appointed as guardians for minor children, posting a bond, or acting as a surety. It is important to investigate all of the names you find on a document. They could be related. Sometimes land records can be useful when researching your female ancestors. It just depends on whose names are on the deeds. Families tend to sell land back and forth to each other. When you are examining deed indexes for your surnames, look for the Latin phrases ex ux, which means and wife, or et al, which means and others. Examining deeds with these phrases may provide the names of females or names of siblings or children. This often occurs when the land is divided upon someone's death, which is the case in the example on the screen. Another thing to watch out for is when a man or a couple sold land to your ancestors for some ridiculously low amount. This could be an indicator that the grantors, or the ones selling the land, could be the parents or relatives of your female ancestor. Consider searching for your female ancestors in these records. References to marriages can be found in all types of records. As I said earlier, pay attention to the witnesses listed in various records, such as property, marriage, and naturalization. Consider naming patterns. Does your ancestor have a middle name that sounds like a surname? Mothers often give their last name as a middle name for their children. They also might name their children after favorite siblings or their father. Use this to help prove the relationship of a suspected parent. And that brings us to a close for this presentation. I hope the information helps you locate your ancestors. Thank you.